at the time of trauma. Philosophy is not the normal thing that people discuss. Most people, if you have someone over to your home for lunch, you might talk about politics, most people like to gossip, who did this and what happened. Philosophy is not normally what most people discuss. But philosophy is what we inevitably tend to discuss when there is some upheaval in our life. The Prabhupada says in the second chapter of the Bhagavad purport that there's always some upheaval in this world. Now the upheaval can be trivial. Maybe our favorite team lost the cricket match. Or it can be traumatic, it can be catastrophic. There's a storm which killed thousands of people. But generally, when things don't go the way we think they should be going, and we just can't make sense of things. So philosophy is where we try to make sense of what doesn't make sense. That is the essence of when people look for philosophy. We try to make sense of the things that don't make sense. If things were always making sense, philosophers would become unemployed. But when things don't make sense, then what is happening? Why is it happening? What's going on over here? Is there any way to make sense of things? So what is the trauma that has happened over here? Here, this is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. Now before this, there has been a conversation between Vidura and Uddhava. And it is at this particular time that Vidura gets the news that Krishna has departed from the world. And not only has Krishna has departed, but Krishna has departed in a very devastating way. The entire Yadu dynasty fights and has a fratricidal war in which they kill each other. The Dwarka kingdom is destroyed. And Krishna himself succumbs to almost a casual wound in the leg. So, in the face of such a trauma, such a devastating departure of the Lord and his associates, it is understandable that questions may arise. What is happening? Now, the test of great devotees is they may not be shaken because they are absorbed in the Lord. But still, here, if we look back at what Maitreya has asked, Maitreya has been asked by Vidura, this particular theory is not exactly what Vidura has asked about. He's asked general questions about the Lord, but Vidura starts by some people think like this. So the fundamental question that comes in the human mind on seeing especially disturbing pastimes like the Lord's disappearance, that is addressed here by Vidura and by Maitreya. So for Vidura's sake, if not for Vidura's sake, for our sake. So what is he saying over here? Seyam Bhagavato Maya. That Sayam, that some people think that, see, normally we understand this is the material world, material level, this is the spiritual level. And the Lord exists at the spiritual level. And now the material level is the domain of Maya. So when the Lord comes to this world, what happens? Is the Lord under Maya or the Lord beyond Maya? Now there are several examples given. Prabhupada gives the example in this purport of how the clouds are created by the sun. The clouds cover the sun, but they don't cover the sun. The clouds actually, they cover only our perception of the sun. It is to our vision that the sun is covered. So the other example Prabhupada gives elsewhere is like a king who enters into a jail. The king is not a prisoner when the king enters into jail. The king is not under the prison laws. Now we may say this is a self-evident point. Why would even anyone make an argument that God has come under illusion? Well, so, and this is the context. I'm trying to speak 5 points. First, This is the context. And I'll speak about two particular traditions in which this particular idea comes in. And then we'll talk from the Vaishnava tradition, what is the Vaishnava understanding of it, and how it relates to us when we face situations where our faith may be challenged. So, in the Advaitic idea, the many of us, for us, Advaitavad, or as Prabhupada preferred the word Mayavad is commonly talked about as that we are all God. I was in America and there was a boy, not a boy, a young man in one of the, what they call the hip neighborhoods. It was written, I was an atheist till I discovered I was God. So this is a common idea that you are God, I am God, we are all God. Now this actually is not Mayavad. It is what we can call as Neo-Mayavad. Now Neo-Mayavad is a distortion of traditional Mayavad. Of traditional Mayavad, what Shankaracharya teaches is, what he tries to interpret the Vedanta Sutra is that Brahman is the only reality. So the common understanding of Mayavad is that, say, we are here, God is here, and then we merge into God, and then we become God. That is the idea. But this idea is not Mayavad, this is the modern oversimplification to the point of distortion of Mayavad. This is Neo-Mayavad. Traditional Mayavad is what? Brahman is the only reality. Now when Brahman comes in touch with Sattva, it becomes Ishwar. So we can use the word Jagadish. I'll tell why I'm using this particular name over here, Jagadish. So Brahman in touch with Sattva is Jagadish. Now there are variants of this, but this is I'm giving a simplified outline. Brahman in touch with Rajas is Jiva. And Brahman in touch with Tamas is Jagat. So all these three, according to them, are in the domain of Maya. So Jeev, Jagat and Jagdish. I use the word Jagdish because alliteration of three J's. So Jeev, Jagat and Jagdish, all three are in the domain of Maya. And their idea is, ultimately we realize all three are Maya and the only thing that exists is Brahman. So the ultimate realization is not exactly that Jiva enters into God or Jiva enters into Brahman. Rather, we just realize the falsity of all of this. So we begin first by realizing the falsity of the Jagat. Oh, this world is false, this world is Maya. But it is very difficult to realize that. Why? Because the Jagat casts a spell. It's almost like a noose which ties the soul. So they say to get out of the gravity pull of the Jagat, temporarily, transitionally, the Jiva can worship Ishvara. And so for them, Bhakti, which is the Jiva worshipping Ishvara, is basically, what is it? It is just a transitional tool. So you get out of the clutches of Jagat, then as Jiva comes closer and closer and closer to Ishvara, that eventually it is not exactly that Jiva and Ishvara merge. Their idea is that Jiva and Ishvara, the Jiva realizes that the Ishvara is Maya and Jiva is also Maya. So my sense of I-ness is Maya and the sense of Godhood, that is also Maya. That's why their idea is, their philosophy, they call it non-duality. Non-duality means there is nothing except Brahman exists. So within this philosophy, Jagdish, Ishvara, the avatar of the Lord, they are intrinsically in Maya. Just coming into this world means they are in Maya. Now, this is of course completely a distortion. Because there are many places, for example, in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. He is not saying Brahman Sarvasya Prabhu. He is saying Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. Everything comes from me. Mattaha Parataram Nanyat. Nothing higher than me is ultimate reality. So at least if we stick to the Bhagavad Gita, then it's very clear. While there are some verses which can be read impersonalistically by doing a little stretching of the grammar and the context, but the preponderance of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita are very categorical in establishing Krishna as the highest reality. Yo mam eva asammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. One who understands me to be the supreme being, that person is sarvavid, Krishna says. That person knows everything. That person knows the fullest reality. So the way the Mayapur says that they try to say that actually, chapters 7 to 12, these are the Bhakti Yoga chapters. So in these, Krishna talks about his supremacy. But in other sections, he doesn't talk about it. But it's not that simple. Yes, 7, 7, 10, 8, these verses are there where Krishna had quoted this Bhatta Paratam Nanya Daham Sarvasya Prabhu. But 630, 647, this is in Dhyan section. 630 is Yo Mam Pashyati Sarvat, Sarvam Chamai Pashyati. It says one who sees me in everything and everything in me. Such a person is never lost. So never lost to me, nor am I lost to that person. So what does this mean? Krishna is clearly talking about a state beyond Maya. And so this in 647 is Yoginam api sarvesham madgatena antaratma Shraddhavan bhajate yoma same yuktatamam. So this is in one sense the topmost perception Krishna is saying, and the topmost yogi. Both are clearly seeing Krishna as the highest reality. And this is in the Dhyan Yoga chapter. Even before that, of course, in 529 we have Krishna says that Bhoktaram Yagatapsam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surudam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Muchyati. Now Shanti is the goal of the impersonalists. So Krishna is specifically using the word Shanti over there, and he is saying that by Gyatva Mam, and he is not talking about any impersonal nature beyond it. And then even if we go into the last 6 chapters, these are the Jnana Yoga Jnana section is considered to. But here also I quoted this verse 15, 19. Very categorical. Krishna saying, Sa Sarvavid Bhajatima. Such a person knows everything. So Sarvavid is a very categorical declaration. Such a person knows everything. What does that know? That the person knows everything? Yoma eva asammudho janati purushottama. So both the words asammudho, that means there is no illusion. It is not that this is a person who is still in the moha maya of Brahman. Asammudho, and then after that sarvavit. So both of them are very categorical declarations, and Krishna says purushottama. Now of course towards the end we have 1865, where Krishna is saying man manabhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskar. So there are a couple of places where Krishna uses the word Mamatma. But those are very few and often. Somebody can say that Krishna's Atma is different from Krishna. But Krishna uses them as compared to how often he uses Ma. He uses Mamatma very rare, only a couple of times in the Gita. The point is that if somebody wants to read Gita impersonalistically, okay, some verses they can find that. But if one reads the Gita fully, the preponderance of the verses points to the personal reality as the highest reality. So, as far as the Gita is concerned, Krishna is beyond Maya. So, the impersonalist reading is not supported by the Bhagavad Gita. We could analyze other texts also like that. But let's stick to the Bhagavad Gita for now. So, now, the impersonalist understanding that the Lord is under Maya, Ishwar is under Maya, that is wrong. But it's interesting that even those who are theistic, sometimes they have this notion. So the one problem is that emotion is all illusion. This is the Mayavadi idea. The Mayavadi idea is all emotion comes as the product of illusion, and we need to go beyond all emotion. Now, for even those who accept the Lord's personhood, that means they accept that the Lord is the supreme reality who reigns in the spiritual level. But even for them, when the Lord descends as avatar, the question comes, when he comes as an avatar, does he come under Maya? What exactly is his relationship? And especially when this question comes up, even for those who are accepting the person's aspect, when the Lord exhibits emotions that seem mundane like emotions. So, for example, when in the Ramayana, Lord Ram is separated from Sita and he is in agony. He's crying tears of lamentation. And then, see, what is going on? How can the Lord be in tears like this? How can the Lord be in agony like this? Even in Krishna Leela, when the demon Shalva is attacking Dwarka, one time he comes and gets an effigy of Krishna's father Vasudeva. And he acts as if he's going to lop off the head, kill, and he kills. And Krishna seems to be shaken for a moment. Even in the Ramayana, when Indrajit is trying various means to try to get the better of Ram and Lakshmana, when he can't, he decides that I have to perform a yajna. But he needs time for that yajna. So what he does is, he makes a look-alike, an effigy of Sita, and he drags her in his airborne chariot. And there Hanuman and the various Vanaras are fighting. And Hanuman, he boasts to Hanuman, just see, this is what you have come for, I will defeat your very purpose. And Hanuman screams, you villain, you should not attack a woman. But Hanuman picks up a huge rock and hurls it. And Indrajit tries to stop him. Indrajit laughs mockingly and raises himself above. He raises himself above. At that time, right in front of Hanuman, just lops off the head of that image of Sita. And then Hanuman is so infuriated, he attacks Vibhishan. Not Vibhishan, Indrajit. Attacks Indrajit, but Indrajit just laughs and keeps rising higher. The Vanaras are frantic on seeing Sita being killed. They try to attack. But Indrajit is mocking and rising higher and higher into the sky. At that time, Hanuman says, stop, stop. There is no point in fighting. And Hanuman goes and tells Ram. And when Ram hears this, Ram just faints. And everybody is frozen. Everybody has stopped fighting. And then Vibhishan has been fighting in another part of the battle, and he sees suddenly the battle seems to have stopped. What happened? And he comes over, he sees a place where everybody is crowded, and he comes there. And he says Ram has fallen unconscious. He asks, what has happened over here? And then Ram has just regained his consciousness, is completely desolate. And then at that time, Hanuman tells, Indrajit has killed Sita. Now, while everybody is in agony, Vibhishan seems unmoved. Vibhishan says, that's impossible. He said that Ravan fought this whole war because he wanted to have Sita for himself. He would not let Sita be killed. This is just a trick. Sita is not dead. Now Ram hears this, but Ram is so dazed. He says, Vibhishan, what are you saying? Repeat it. And then Vibhishan explains it again. And then Vibhishan says, this must be a trick. Indrajit must have gone to the Kumbh. That's where he wants to perform a yajna. If he succeeds in performing that sacrifice, then he will be invincible. You have to stop him right now. And then Ram is still a little dazed. Ram just shakes himself off the daze, and Lakshman says, I will go and fight with Indrajit. And then they depart. So here it appears as if Lord Ram is overcome by illusion, and Vibhishan gets him out of illusion. So how can we say such incidents happen? And now we give the explanation that it is Leela. Now many times when we use the word Leela, it is from a spiritual perspective, it's perfectly right. But from a logical perspective, it can seem like a logical cop-out. That whatever you can't explain, you call it a Leela. And that can seem very unsatisfactory to the logical mind. Now we can always say that you cannot understand God by logic. That also doesn't seem logically satisfactory. So, what is actually happening over here? Or how do we understand or explain this in a way that even a rational mind can at least get some sense of? So the thing is that there is an underlying misconception over here that with respect to the Lord, because he is above Maya, he can only have positive emotions. Positive emotions means joy, happiness, celebration, victory. That only these are, you can say, pure or transcendental emotions. And any what we call as negative emotions. Negative emotions would be grief, pain. All these are negative emotions, and these cannot be experienced by the Lord. Why? Because these are considered a product of Maya. However, this itself is a questionable notion. That means what we are saying is that there are certain emotions that are so powerful that they will put, that if they are experienced by God, they will put God in Maya. So the explanation that is given for such emotions by certain Vaishnava traditions also is that when the Lord comes in this world, he comes under Maya. So for example, you say the Lord gets cursed by someone, some rishi, and because of this XYZ happens to him. So now all this is the idea that the Lord is under the rules of material nature. Well, it's not that simple. So why is this? Because we will see that generally whenever if somebody is under a curse, they can't snap out themselves. Now one moment I am in the curse, next moment I am out of the curse. If you see the Lord in Damodar Leela, for example, at one moment he is not able to untie the ropes which have tied him. And it seems to be as a child who has been tied by his mother. Of course, before that he has shown he is no child. His mother has to get all the ropes from Gokul to tie. But anyway, if you look at that particular time, he seems to be tied. But the next moment, what does he see? Hey, these trees are actually Nalakur and Manigri. And my devotee Narada had promised that I would deliver them. And that small child who cannot seem to untie a knot on a rope, that child brings down 2 giant trees. So what is happening over here is, if the Lord were actually cursed, or actually here, a curse is just a form of Maya. If the Lord has come under Maya, so curse is like a subset within Maya, within the domain of material nature. Then the Lord, if he has actually lost his omnipotence because of coming under Maya, then how would he next moment come out of that? Isn't it? So the concept of Leela is not that the Lord comes under Maya. Rather, the Lord, what he does is, the Lord is not so much interested in proving his divinity. That is not his primary interest. His interest is in relishing intimacy. The Lord wants to relish intimate pastimes with his devotees. And for that purpose, whatever is required, he does that. Just like if somebody may be in a very big position, but if they are constantly themselves conscious and making others conscious, I am the Prime Minister of the country, I am the head of this temple, I am this. If they are constantly reminding everyone of their position, then it's very difficult to come close to such a person. Because the reminder of their position, whether they do it or someone else does it, whoever it is doing it, that the reminder of greatness, it becomes an obstacle in closeness, in intimacy. Now you could say if two great people mean they can come close to each other, that's possible. But the Lord is asamurtva. There is no one equal to him. So Krishna is not primarily interested in proving or preserving his godhood. Like Krishna is not an insecure God who wants everyone to remember, I am God. Don't forget it. No. Yes, we need to remember him so that we remember his divinity so that we become purified. But among his own devotees, when he is performing pastimes, he doesn't need everyone to remember that he is God. He just wants to experience the rich gamut of various emotions. And it is through the rich range of emotions that are experienced that Krishna actually bonds himself to his devotees, and the devotees get bonded to him. So this is, when we say Leela, the point of Leela is not to show Krishna's greatness. It is for Krishna to relish his madhurya, to savor and share his madhurya. Now, greatness may be demonstrated, but more than the Aishwarya is the madhurya. And for that, whatever is required, Krishna will do that. So this is where the idea of Yoga Maya comes in. In the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna uses the word Yoga Maya, he does not technically use it in the sense of the Yoga Maya, the term as it is understood in the Gaudiya tradition. But that usage comes most close in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam at the start of the Raslila pastime. Yoga Maya Upashita. So, I'll make 2 points about this Yoga Maya before we come to the concluding point in this session, in this class. That Yoga Maya is in what is English called an oxymoron. Oxymoron is basically two opposite words brought together. See, yoga basically means connection, and Maya means illusion. So normally what illusion does is cause a disconnection, isn't it? So literally if we take the word Yoga Maya, what it is like the word, that is a brilliant fool. Are you brilliant, or is it a saying the person is brilliant or the person is foolish? It's an oxymoron, two opposite ideas brought together. That is a kind killer. Now, if you're a killer, how are you kind? So now when oxymorons are composed, it is not just for the sake of intellectual titillation. It is for conveying something deeper. So when the Bhagavatam uses the word Yoga Maya, so normal Maya is the illusion that takes us away from connection, that weakens our connection. That is normal Maya. But Yoga Maya is the illusion that deepens connection, that strengthens connection, that sweetens the connection. So to the extent Yashoda Mai thinks that Krishna is my child, if I don't feed him, he will stay hungry, he may even die. It is to that extent that she can actually experience maternal emotions. And similarly, it is Krishna who enters into that role of a small child. Vaktram niniya bhayabhavanaya sthitasya. So, bhayabhavanaya sthitasya. When there is an emotion of fear in his eyes, Is it that he's just doing a nakra, he's just doing a show of being angry so that his mother will not be chastising too severely? Maybe. But it's also possible that Krishna, when he enters into that role, he feels that fear. But the key thing is, when Krishna enters into that role, Krishna is not coming under Maya. He is choosing to take on that role so that he can reciprocate love. But at any moment when he wants, he can come out of that role. He is not controlled in the sense that he is not under the spell of the emotions. He's experiencing those emotions, he's relishing those emotions, but whenever he wants, he can come out of those emotions. So the concept of Leela is what enables the Lord to relish the full range of emotions. Now if Krishna is complete, why should Krishna be deprived of the full range of emotions that are experienced in this world? Now we may say, why should Krishna experience something like grief or agony? Well, it's not that grief or anxiety or agony is a pleasant emotions. But those emotions are an integral part of a healthy relationship, of a real relationship. And Narasimhadev gets angry. That anger shows his love for Prahlad. Now if there is no anger over there, then okay, we may say the Lord loves his devotees. But how do we really know that? How do we really experience that? So, both from the Lord's perspective and from our perspective. So the Lord, actually when he enters into the role, he is experiencing those emotions. And a metaphor can be given for this, that if we consider Leela to be like a play, that is one of the translations of the word Leela. Prabhupada translates the pastime, sometimes he translates as play also. Like play is like a drama when you perform. So in this drama, Krishna is like the hero. If Krishna is the hero, Krishna's associates are like the other characters in the supporting cast. Now Yogamaya is the director. So the director arranges the sets. The director arranges everything. Now when the director arranges things, it's almost as if the director also controls the actor. Isn't it? And the director can seem to be in charge. Well, yes, but beyond that, the director is directing according to a script. So there is a script writer. And that script writer is Krishna. So, Krishna is controlled by Yogamaya according to his own plan. So this is Achintya Bheda Bhed. Krishna is not in control and yet Krishna is in control. Krishna is not in control in the sense that when he is actually enacting that role, he is fully into that emotion. He is completely absorbed. But at the same time, it is not that that play is going out of Krishna's control. Because ultimately, the director is directing according to the script given by Krishna. So Krishna is in charge. Krishna may seem to come under Maya, but he is not coming under Maya. Maya is acting under his control. And for us, I'll conclude with this last point, that for us sometimes when we are in trouble and when we pray to Krishna and somehow no help seems to be coming, then we may, if we have had sufficient practice of bhakti, we have had sufficient faith in God, then we may not deny God's existence. We may say that, okay, God exists, but then why doesn't God help me? So there's one Jewish theologian who came up with the idea that actually God is all good, but God is not all powerful. So there are different kinds of explanations that we might come up with. That maybe right now, that theologian's idea was that Satan is more powerful than God. Eventually God will assert his power, but right now Satan is more powerful. Well, that is a contradiction to what scripture teaches. But let's try to understand what Krishna does when things happen like this. See, in the Asat Sabhaya, in the terrible assembly where the horrendous act of the disrobing of Draupadi happened. If we have seen some movies or TV series, there we see as if Krishna is coming and smiling and raising his hand from his hand. The endless garment is coming. But actually, nobody sees Krishna over there. All that happens is Dushasana is trying to disrobe Draupadi, and the disrober gets exhausted, but the robe doesn't get exhausted. And nobody understands why it has happened. They attribute it is a miracle, and it's because of Draupadi's chastity that Dushasana could not dishonor. But later on, when they go to the forest, and they are in the forest, and Krishna comes to meet. And when Krishna comes to meet, Draupadi breaks down. And she's almost angry with Krishna. So she says, Krishna, I am your friend, I am your relative, I am your devotee. I needed you, I called you. Why didn't you come? Here, Krishna again doesn't take. God, I am God, my plan is perfect. Why do you question my plan? Krishna does not take that back at all. He says, oh Panchali, I had no idea there was any plan of a gambling match also. After the Rajsuya got over, there's a demon Shalva attacked Dwarka and I had to rush to protect it. It was a fierce fight, and as soon as I had protected Dwarka, I got free and I heard the news that you have been, that all this happened. I have come immediately. Oh Panchali, I have heard how while everyone in that assembly was hurtling towards adharma, you alone remained firm in the path of dharma. You alone reminded everyone of dharma. Although they tried to dishonor you, it is you who emerged as the most honorable person in that assembly. Oh Draupadi, your tears will not go in vain. And he pacifies her. And Draupadi becomes a little pacified, and Draupadi goes away. And then Krishna turns towards Arjuna. And Krishna is red hot with anger. And Krishna says, those wicked people who hurt Draupadi like this, I will destroy them right now. They do not deserve to live. Krishna is wild with rage. And it's at that time that Arjuna offers prayers to pacify Krishna. So there are not many places in the entire Krishna-Arjuna relationship where Arjuna offers prayers. But Arjuna says, Krishna, you are the Supreme Lord. Nothing happens except by your plan. By your plan, your devotees will always be protected. And Krishna, on hearing those prayers of Arjuna, becomes pacified. He becomes pacified. So sometimes as devotees, when we are going through trouble, sometimes we may start thinking, is Krishna angry with me that I am going through such trouble? In this world, people can do terrible things, and everybody has that karma by which they may be able to do sometimes some terrible things. But we should know that Krishna is not angry with us. Krishna is angry for us. Krishna was not angry with Draupadi because of which all this happened to him. Krishna was angry for Draupadi. How dare they do something like this? That's why Narasimhadev, when after killing Hiranyakashipu, when the Devatas offered prayers, the Lord didn't even pay attention to them. He said, when my devotee was in danger, you neither protected him nor did you protest. You did nothing when the need was there, and now you are offering big prayers to him. I don't care. So the Lord is angry for us. Krishna is not up there causing us suffering. Krishna is in here with us. Krishna is helping us face the suffering. So this is the Lord. We shouldn't think that when I am going through suffering, oh, Krishna is in the spiritual world dancing with the gopis and he doesn't care for me. Yes, Krishna is dancing with the gopis, but Krishna's omnipotence means that he can be at multiple places and multiple times, and not just be at multiple places. Krishna in those multiple places can experience multiple emotions. So Krishna in our heart cares for us. Krishna cares for us so much that not only is there constantly with us, he's constantly striving to bring us closer to him. Madhur prapanna pashupashi vimokshanaya muktaya bhuri karunaya namo alayaya namo alayaya. The Lord is tirelessly working. So Krishna's emotions, they work for us. So Krishna, when Krishna experiences emotions, they work in both ways. For his devotees, those who are already devoted to him in the past time, they bring intimacy, that the devotees come closer to him. For those of us who are sadhakas, these Krishna's emotions, they can give us confidence, they can give us faith, they can reassure us that Krishna never abandons us. Krishna has not forgotten us. Krishna knows what we are going through. And Krishna will redeem everyone. When Srila Prabhupada was all alone in the streets of Delhi, knocked down by a heat stroke, knocked down by a cow, Krishna knew that. Krishna allowed that to happen for his own purpose. In that case, the purpose was Prabhupada's glories would be established much more. When David Allen attacked Prabhupada and Prabhupada had to leave and he was homeless on the street, not knowing what to do, Krishna was there. Krishna allowed that to happen, so that eventually the glory of Prabhupada would be revealed. So what specifically Krishna's plan is when we feel abandoned by Krishna? No, we may not know. But rather than thinking that Krishna has abandoned me, we understand that Krishna is with me. And Krishna is helping me face the situation. It is not that Krishna is bringing the difficulty into devotee's life. For whatever reason, yes, Krishna could bring the difficulty, some evil person could bring the difficulty, the world's own nature could bring that difficulty. But the key point is, Krishna is there to help us face that difficulty. Macchitta sarvadurgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. That if we become conscious of Krishna, we will pass over all obstacles by His grace. So I'll summarize. I discussed broadly 5 points today. First, we were discussing about, is Ishwar in Maya? That was the broad topic. So first point was about the context, that people turn to philosophy amid drama. Philosophy is humanity's attempt to make sense of what doesn't make sense. So in this particular case, Krishna's departure is what has prompted this whole discussion. And although Vidura doesn't directly address a question like this, but Maitreya is anticipating and he's addressing that. The idea that now that the Lord comes under Maya, so Ishwar under Maya, that is at one level a Advaitic notion. So in the Advaitic, the non-dual idea, the Neo-Mayavad holds that we become God. But the traditional Mayavad, what it says is, Brahman is the only reality, and Jagadish, Jiva and Jagat, all three are Maya, which are to be given up. Now, you can worship the Ishwar temporarily, but ultimately it will go beyond Ishwar also. So their philosophy we discussed in all the sections, not just the Bhakti section, like 7.7, 10.8, but even in the Karma Dhyana section, 630, 647, or for that matter, in the Jnana section, 1519 or 1865, Krishna is categorically refuting that idea that he is under Maya. Then we discussed that how even within the devotee, within the devotional traditions, there are some which hold that the avatar comes under Maya, because the avatar seems to experience some negative emotions. But the problem is, this notion is that negative emotions, they say the Lord can only experience positive emotions. But they say negative emotions, they are under Maya. But why should, if the Lord is complete, why should he not experience all the emotions that animate a rich and real relationship? So the last we discussed about, then the Vedic, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, the explanation is of Yoga Maya. It is an illusion that actually strengthens connection. Normally illusion weakens connection, but this is the illusion that strengthens connection. So when the Lord experiences emotions and the devotees experience emotions, what is happening is they bring intimacy. And Krishna's concern in Leela is not so much, is more to establish intimacy than rather than to prove his supremacy. That is not his primary concern. So therefore Krishna apparently comes under Maya, but in any moment he can come out. So it is, we discuss how Krishna is both the actor, the hero, and the script writer. So he is, in one sense, as a hero, he is into that pastime, into that Leela, he is experiencing those emotions, as if completely consumed by those emotions. But the whole narrative is happening according to his will. So he is out of Maya. And then lastly we discussed that when we feel abandoned, when we feel as if, is Krishna not in control of the situation? Why is Krishna letting this happen? So it is not that Krishna has abandoned us. We discussed the Draupadi pastime, that in distress, it is that Krishna is angry for us, not with us. He is there with us to help us face the sufferings and overcome the sufferings. So the world's power to hurt is great, and it will hurt us all even when we are practicing bhakti. But greater than the world's power to hurt is God's power to heal. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any question or comment? Yes.
Thank you, Guru. Thank you for such a wonderful class. This whole area of emotions, one thing that I found is that the Bhagavatam Thakur said that chanting japa is not lifting, it's heartbeat. Hare Krishna. Alright, so I'll say it over again. Thank you for your amazing class. And this whole area of devotional emotions plays a pretty big role in our lives as sadhakas. And this is expressed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that chanting Hare Krishna is not lip-beat, it's heartbeat. Another, Prabhupada in a famous Hare Krishna address said that chanting is like a genuine cry of a child for his mother. It's very much from the heart. And, I've put together this book, Japa Affirmations, which really stresses this point. And I found by chanting from the heart, it really has improved my japa tremendously. Much less intention, I'm out of my mind, and my heart fully present for the experiencing the holy name. So, and then it becomes sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. So even on the sadhaka level.
Sorry, is this a comment or a question? I'll start processing. So is it a comment or a question?
It's a comment, and I'd like to hear your
okay, yes.
I'd like to hear you connected. Comments, I'd like you to connect it with what you presented.
Okay, yes, true. That sometimes we may reduce bhakti to a set of rituals that have to be done, and chanting a particular number of rounds can become like that. Oh, I just have to get this done. But it's, if we remember, it's a relationship with the Lord. And that's what Prabhupada says in Nectar of Instruction. It's related that Prabhupada says the substance of devotional service is not imaginative ecstasy or sentimental speculation. It is practical service. So practical service doesn't just mean that we clean the temple or wash the plates or whatever. Practical service means the way we would, at least that's my understanding, the way we would act if we are in a real relationship with someone. If we call out someone's name, we need to call out to that person. We want to connect with that person. So yes, if we focus on that point of a relationship in the and see the chanting in the light of that relationship, then when the gopis are calling out to Krishna, Vikre tu kama kilago kanya. So at that time, for them, Krishna is a living, loving person. And they're connecting with him, and they're calling out his good names. So I found that if we hear Krishna's pastimes or hear about Krishna, and those thoughts about Krishna are alive in our consciousness, then the investment of emotion in our chanting is relatively easier. If our thoughts are caught in the world, I had to do this, and this person did like this, and that person did like that, and then it's like Krishna is more like an abstract concept than a living reality for us, than a living person. So the more we hear about Krishna, especially we hear those pastimes which touch our heart, then it's easier to bring emotion into our chanting. In the pure stage, chanting will bring emotion into our heart. But mostly in the sadhaka stage, we have to bring emotion from our heart into our chanting. Eventually, that emotion will come from the chanting. Thank you. Thank you very much. One last. Yes, please. You want to comment something, Radhishan?
Hi, Vishnu. Thank you for the wonderful class. It was quite an intellectual workout. Can you also debunk the misconceptions of Christianity on the relation of God and material world?
Okay, I was trying to speak on that, but it's a little technical. It's going to take some time. That's why that was one of the points I was trying to speak. I didn't. But basically, I'll make two big points. See, in the Abrahamic traditions, God is considered to be as completely the other, separate from this world. And this is most in the Islamic tradition, where they have the idea of shirk, that nothing can be associated with God. That's why they consider that deity worship to be that they are associating God with matter. In fact, they say that Allah can forgive every sin except the sin of idolatry. So they say that nothing can be connected with God. Now what happened in Christian tradition is that the Old Testament God is more like a remote God, a distant God. And it's very difficult to actually develop a personal connect, to love such a God. So in the Christian tradition, after Jesus was crucified, for almost 4 centuries, there was this whole idea, who is Jesus? There's a debate about that, or at least confusion. Now, in the 4th century, the Nicene Creed was declared by the church, and they said that the divinity of Christ is manifested in the humanity of Jesus. So they consider Jesus to be fully human and fully divine. So although Jesus said that I am the Son, the Father, I am not the Father, the Father has sent me. Many Christians, for all practical purposes, they worship Jesus as if he is God. And their idea is that, in one says that remote, inaccessible God, who is very difficult to love, that inaccessible God becomes accessible through the person of Jesus. So now the problem with this idea is that Jesus is fully God. Is in their tradition they have the idea that when Jesus was crucified, actual blood came out of him. That Jesus, it was clear that his body was a material body. In fact, it is from their understanding of Jesus itself, the word incarnation comes. Incarnation has the root karna. Karna is carnal, associated with flesh. So incarnation means to come in flesh. So that now in our tradition, Prabhupada didn't use the word incarnation, but Prabhupada qualified the Lord doesn't come in flesh. So avatar is different from incarnation in the literal etymological sense of it. But so when they have this idea that, so whatever emotions they have for Christ, for God, you see most of the songs that Christians write about, Christian music is very popular, but most of their songs are directed towards Jesus, not towards God. Because God is such an abstract reality that it becomes very difficult to love God. Prabhupada says, oh, God is all pervading like the sky. Okay, you can be out by the sky, but who can say I fall in love with the sky? It's how can you reciprocate the sky? So they have basically transposed all the emotions to Jesus. And then in their particular conception, by elevating Jesus to the level of Godhood, that God becomes accessible over there. So the both ideas that God is so remote that he can have nothing to do with this world, that itself is a flawed idea, because God can come to this world and still remain transcendental. And the idea that somebody who has come in the material body, who suffers materially, that person is fully God. That is against even the clear words of Jesus. Now, of course, in the Bible they can quote some words which say that Jesus also says I am God. But overall, Satyaraj Prabhu made a compilation called "You Mean That's in the Bible?" And there are so many quotes where Jesus clearly says He's not God. But so the emotions that are meant to go towards Christ or God, they transport towards Jesus, because Christ is almost like an inaccessible principle. And that's why that there are, while the principle of love of God is what we share with Christianity, the clarity about the object of love, that is quite fuzzy within the Christian tradition. So, thank you very much. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.